When we talk about threats to those who have Bitcoin in self custody, we've got three main buckets, right? We've got accidents, we've got $5 wrench attacks, and we've got social engineering. If you had to rank those three in terms of threat level, how would you put them?
I'd choose accidents first. And I think maybe backing up for just a moment here, I think one of the things that I'd highlight is kind of fundamental. Like, why should people care about self custody, and what are the things that they're risking if they take a lean on a custodian? And I think most people have heard this, but I think it's a good reminder for us to say out loud is, you know, they're subject to hacks. Like, exchange is a big centralized target, huge pot of money. Like, we've seen a lot of exchange hacks. Uh, they're subject to mismanagement. So, like, we don't always talk about it now, but I think it's actually still important in 2025 to mention FTX. Like, we don't want people's funds to disappear overnight. And there's a lot of trust that people put in a custodian when they lean on them to store all of their coins. And then the third thing, and I think this really gets at the core of control and the permissionlessness of Bitcoin, is something that I'll call paper cuts, but it's almost a minimizing term because I think it's much more important than that, which is whoever has the keys makes the rules. That's who decides when money moves to whom, how much, and we want that to be people, not exchanges. And that's really what this is about. And so, going from that to, okay, now it's time to take responsibility and actually take on the ownership, takes you into thinking about the kinds of things that you listed out. And unfortunately, I think what we've seen historically and what we believe quite strongly at Bitkey is that accidents are a huge category, and helping make sure that people can maintain access to their key material over a long period of time in amongst all of the things that happen to them in life, that's a really, really big deal for us. And it's why we focus so much on recovery, making it really easy and seamless to get into a state where you're very resilient against a huge variety of situations, and really easy to do things like set up an inheritance plan that can pass your Bitcoin on to your loved ones. Like, these sorts of things often can accidentally be afterthoughts or be really, really hard to set up in a lot of other settings, leaving people in an unsafe state. And so we see this really strong connection between resilience against accidents and how easy the product is to use. The harder it is to set up or the harder it is to maintain, the more you can have an illusion of safety and feel like you're in a great place and not really have it covered.
And overall, would you say that self custody is going up or down? We had the ETFs launch in 2024. They're the most successful ETFs of any kind ever. So there hasn't been as much of a big push for self custody, I feel like, in the last year. But I'm sure you guys have numbers on the inside. Are more people self custodying Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, so I can't talk about numbers specifically, but we've seen an incredible amount of momentum over the past year. And I'm excited by that. I think there's a lot of Bitcoin out there that's not in self custody, and I think we see a trend that's really, really good on Bitkey specifically. I think you also highlighted something really important though, which is there are industry level challenges. Lots of folks who maybe get interested in Bitcoin primarily for number go up, and then look for exposure through an ETF or a treasury company, end up foregoing other important parts of Bitcoin and maybe not getting to realize those over time. And I think there's definitely an industry challenge there to work on. But I'm happy that despite effects like that, we're seeing a ton of growth.
Yeah, it's personal responsibility, right? And when it comes to money, it can get scary. But I think that's where you guys come in and try to relieve that fear for a lot of people when it comes to Bitcoin self custody. So let's get into Bitkey. What is it? What makes it different? And what makes it so special?
Yeah. I think the first thing I'd say is it's easy to look at Bitkey and think it's a wallet. Think it's a hardware wallet or a signing device or a wallet companion app. And the reality is it's a lot more than that. It's a comprehensive set of recovery tools. And that's the way we think about Bitkey, is that it's that set of tools that's going to keep you safe. And it happens that there are some familiar components in it. So for example, we have a secure signing device, and we have a wallet companion app that runs on your phone. And we have a third key managed by block that helps you recover in settings where you've lost one part or maybe more than that of your wallet. And really what we're after is in 5 minutes, you should be able to set up a 2 of 3 multi-signature wallet that keeps you safe from a huge variety of things. And then you should be able to add to that extremely easily to do things like inheritance. And so the way we design this is built on multi-sig. And what we wanted to make sure, of course, is that you can always move your money without block. And so the way that works is you can always do that with your 2 keys in your hands. And block can never move money without you because we only have 1 of the 3 keys and 2 of 3 required. And it's not a block rule. That's a rule enforced by the Bitcoin network by the actual at a protocol level. And so with that as the foundation, then the task for us was really to figure out how do we make this incredibly safe in practice for people in their lives? Like, what happens if I lose the hardware? What happens if I lose the phone? What happens if I lose both? And so the odyssey that we went on there was to make all of those things easy in advance for customers. Because I think what typically happens is this is exactly the point in the conversation where someone who goes and takes self-custody and tries to glue together other products, a signing device over here and a companion app over here and who knows what for the server, like they're going on an odyssey to design their own wallet. They're having to take on the kinds of adversarial thinking that you were talking about before and to varying degrees of success. And so what we wanted to do is help people kickstart that journey and end up in a safe state in 5 minutes.
So let's define some important terms before we move forward. We've got private keys, we've got seed phrases, and you guys are seedless. So explain that to the audience.
Yeah. So one of the challenges that people confront when taking on self-custody for the first time, at least prior to Bitkey, is you go through setting up all these tools and then you're left with a 12 or 24 word seed phrase and you need to protect that. You can't lose it. You can't let anyone see it or your money's gone. And it sounds simple. It's a lot of responsibility. And seed phrases end up in people's clouds and plain text and get stolen. Seed phrases end up accidentally read over the phone in a moment of panic because unfortunately humans have, the ability to get tricked by some really talented folks out there. And we wanted to help people take ownership of their coins without immediately getting stuck with that. And the result is we had to go through thinking about all of these different failure modes. So you talked about, falling asleep at night wondering about failures. And that's really how Bitkey started is we said, okay, well, wait a second. If I wanted to not burden everybody with that problem, like what do we have to think through? And the number of scenarios is huge. And so we went off to go do that. And the result was, by basing on 2 of 3 multi-signature, we looked at what happens if you lose each of those 3 keys. And we looked at what happens if you lose other combinations of those keys and the tools to get at them. And then we tried to figure out, okay, how can we patch that for customers?
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you could drop a like and a share, it would help in our mission to accelerate adoption. If you're looking for more Bitcoin signal, join over 10,000 readers of our newsletter, Bitcoin News Weekly. Every Monday morning, we send out the biggest headlines of Bitcoin to keep you in the know in under 5 minutes. Links below in the description. Then come hang with us live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We break it all down live on stream with a new guest, and you can add your 2 sats in the chat. See you next week.